Hey guys, my name is Dan. Welcome to Dan's Fire Safety Corner. I have over 500 hours of former wildland firefighting experience, and I'm here to talk to you guys today about a start to finish backcountry campfire that minimalizes the risk of personal injury and forest fire spreading. I'll be reviewing an emergency action plan, how to create a fire pit that manages preventable risks, the collection and creation of several useful styles of backcountry campfires, fire tetrahedron, and how to put your fires out properly. The first step in creating an effective fire is finding the right site. Your spot should be a nice clearing such as this one, no branches above the fire to catch, and there should be a nice even spaced walkway around so that people can get around the fire without having any difficulty. Before you make your fire pit, such as this, it's a good idea to get a nice emergency action plan just in case. In your emergency action plan, you should have a risk assessment so that you could minimize the risks of personal injury and fire spread. You should establish whether you have cell service or a satellite phone that can contact help from outside of the park. And lastly, an evacuation route. In case there's fire spread or injury outside of your control, you can get out of there safely and contact the proper authorities. If you do have a fire that's out of control, be sure to get in contact with 310 Fire and they'll put it out. Once you've established your fire pit area and your emergency action plan, now it's time to start the pit.
Dan, I want to start a fire over here, but there's burnables on the ground and I don't want to cause a forest fire. What do I do?
That's a great question, Mickey Mouse. First, you will want to clear the area of all burnable materials on the surface that can catch fire from your safety. So now you should have a fairly large circular area around where you're going to place your fire pit that has no top burnable material sitting on it. The problem with wildfires is that just because there's nothing on the surface that looks like it can burn doesn't mean there's nothing under the surface that can't burn. The problem is with these areas, there's moss and grass and roots that go deep down into the loam that can create smoldering fires, or what we call creep. Now what happens is it buries itself underground and it creeps along and pops up somewhere else, and that's where another forest fire starts. So to combat this, when wildland fire, what we do is called dig guard, and that's digging through this organic layer to the mineral soil where it's safe. When you dig guard, usually you dig a straight line parallel to the fire or in front of the fire to stop it from creeping forward. The same principles apply here. You're going to dig up through the mineral soil, just like so, until you have a nice pit. So now that your hole's done, if you see, you can notice that you have a layer of black, very organic soil that has all the burnables in it. If you go down, you can see the lighter color inorganic mineral soil. Now that's where you want to get to because it's not going to creep the same as this layer. Now that you have your hole set up, the next step is to build a rock ring around. Now this not only protects your fire from being put out by the wind, but it also helps so that embers and sparks don't pass through onto the areas around it that are not protected and start another fire outside your pit. And now you have your fire pit.
Hey Dan, now that you have your fire pit, what's next?
That is a great question. What's next is finding the materials that you need to burn. Next up, you're going to take your saw or your axe and go find a tree that's fallen recently and is not rotted. You can tell when a tree is dead if you give a spinning roundhouse kick and it breaks that easily. So now I'm going to show you guys how to start two different types of fires for two different purposes on your backcountry trips. This first fire is just going to be a standard campfire that you're going to want in your fire pit. Now to start off making these fires, I like to separate and organize the sticks that I'm going to use in size of diameter from thick to medium to small kindling. To ignite your fires, you can use birch bark, dry leaves. I personally like to bring my own dryer lint. And if you really want to make a good fire starter, you can cover Vaseline with some dryer lint and it'll burn forever. If you don't have any external fire starters, such as lint, toilet paper, or SOS pads, a really easy thing is to find a freshly fallen birch tree, take out your knife, and all you're going to do is just cut a little slit in the bark, get underneath it, prop it up, there you go. Yeah, fresh, nice birch bark to start your burns. To start the log cabin, I like to place my dryer lint in the middle and place 2 thicker diameter sticks right beside the dryer lint so as to add the elevation for the next layer over top. As you work your way up, you should be getting slightly larger sticks on top so you can get the fire propagating. Once your log cabin is built, you can go ahead and light it up. You can use a ferro rod or a lighter, such as what I'm doing. As the fire gets bigger, start adding bigger and bigger logs. This next fire is called the Dakota Fire Pit. Now essentially, you dig one hole here, which is going to be where the fire happens, and another hole, not too far away, that goes underneath and connects to this hole right here underneath. Next, you're going to put your dryer lint in the hole and light it up. Now that your dryer lint is going, you're going to add, again, a mix of small sticks, sticking straight up and down like so. So now you should have one hole filled with fiery material and then one other hole. If you want to propagate the fire, you can breathe into this hole, pushing air right into there, as so. The benefits to the Dakota Fire Pit, as opposed to just a typical campsite fire, is this pit right here is perfect to just put a pot or a pan over top while it burns underneath and still get enough oxygen underneath to flow through. Now, the beauty of this hole dug into the mineral soil is we have a very low chance of the fire spreading through the ground. Before we put this fire out, let's talk about the fire tetrahedron, which is 4 points which have to be present for a fire to become available. Now on the top you have fuel, you have oxygen, you have a chemical reaction, and you have heat. Now if you want to stop a fire, you have to remove one linkage between any of those 4 items and it should stop the fire. So in the example of what I like to use, which is water, you're taking away the heat and the oxygen by smothering it, and that's how the fire goes out. Putting this fire out is very simple. Now obviously it helps to wear your protective gloves to keep yourself from getting hurt. Start by removing this middle area here, which gives you as much access to that fire as possible. Assuming you have access to water, you're just gonna douse all of that. Now, the smoldering, to properly put out the fire, you need to put water all over it. Oh, you can hear there was some sizzling, which means there was some burning still happening up top. Now that there's no smoke happening, the best way to tell if a fire's out or not is by using your hands. And if your hands feel any extra heat, then there's fire. But in this case, I think we did a pretty good job. There's no heat, no heat signatures, there's no smoke, no smoldering. That means the fire's out. Remember, it's all of our jobs to report wildfires. If you see a fire in the forest, call 310 Fire or 911 and they'll direct you to the nearest fire extinguishing service.